heard human design in my ears and in a podcast. And I was like, I sprinted home. Like I should have timed myself. Like I sprinted home and I was like, open up my computer. What am I? I found out I was a 5-1 splenic projector. And it literally changed my entire understanding of self.
Welcome to the Energy Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Grutman. And if you are a high-achieving woman, a successful entrepreneur, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just a woman with kick-ass big dreams, you're in the right place. If you value your energy, your health, if you want to be a biohacker, tap into longevity, if you want to raise the impact you have in this lifetime, you're going to have a lot of fun around here. As a second-time 7-figure business creator, certified health practitioner, and soul biohacker, I'm here to reconnect you to your energy, to the soul of your business, and to your superpowers. Let's go. Welcome home.
Today, I am so excited to have the stunning Amy Elizabeth with us. Amy is the CEO and creator of the now retired multi-million-dollar human design brand Align by Design. She is now also the co-creator of Alpha HD, a new venture with none other than Melanie Ann Layer. So Amy, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh my gosh, Annette, that's an honor. I'm so excited. I've just fallen in love with you. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Yes. So our paths have crossed in this beautiful mastermind that we are doing with Melanie. And it's just been, I don't know for you, but it's been a bit of a vortex of rapid initiations and growth and evolution and all the things. But deep down, like such beautiful connection with high-level leaders just like you. And it's just really been an honor to do this path by your side. And clearly, you have come on this planet with a very strong mission to bring, to shed light on this thing called human design that, I've brought on the podcast a few times, but you have such a unique approach with it. And you have such a beautiful grace about it. And it's really transformative, actually, to watch you in the level of success that you have, seeing how actually harnessing your human design was the pathway to your success and your growth. So I'd love to hear your story. How did you go from teacher to, this like multi-million-dollar badass that you are?
Thank you. Well, quite the story. I was a teacher. So I taught for about 10 years. And on my second maternity leave with my second daughter, I now have 3 children. I started opening up to the world of personal development. And I had to go back on mat leave about a month early. And I was like, oh no, like my last 4 weeks with my baby, I just didn't want to. And then I was on a run probably like a couple of weeks after that. And I heard human design in my ears and in a podcast. And I was like, I sprinted home. Like I should have timed myself. Like I sprinted home and I was like, open up my computer. What am I? I found out I was a 5-1 splenic projector. And it literally changed my entire understanding of self. And I was like, this makes sense. Yes, 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 yes. Now what? Then I ran my kids, found out their designs, and I was like, okay, cool. Like during the summer, I'm just gonna experiment with this, and I'm gonna see, because obviously I had the summer off as a teacher, how I can align with being a projector and how this kind of works. At the same time, I was kind of like beginning my business on Instagram, but I didn't really have any offers. I didn't really have a business. It was just kind of me showing up and talking. So I had kind of coined my title as like an energetic alignment coach. And this was right before I found human design. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started aligning as a projector and again, talking online. I got my first one-to-one client, which was like pretty high level. It was like $900 a month. And my very first client, I launched a little mini program. And then into the summer, I had 2 more one-to-one clients sign up. And I was just like, oh, I get it. I see how this is working. And then I went back to teaching in September and everything crashed in to see how misaligned I was. We had a ton of social events, weddings. Every single weekend we were doing something. I was working obviously the 9 to 5. I was dropping off my kids at daycare. I was picking them up after school, doing the whole nighttime routine. And I was like, and then my business at night. The business was giving me energy, but I was like, I can just see every single ounce of why I would be exhausted, why I was burnt out, why I was getting sick, why I didn't want to be social, even though I had these social events and I didn't want to, and then how long it would take me to recoup after. And it was like, because I'm a projector. So I started just making these little tweaks. And then I fell in Melanie on Layer and I hopped into a mastermind, still not talking about human design. I spent 4 or 5 weeks inside of that mastermind just being like, I'm so scared to talk about human design. And then I finally ripped the Band-Aid, did it. And at the same time, my marriage was actually going, my ex-husband was going into a really dark place. And I didn't even realize how dark it was. And thank God I had found Melanie at that time, because the next year I had left teaching, found out I was pregnant with my third, found out what was going on with my ex-husband. And I was like, okay, I am diving into personal development, self-led leadership, understanding of energetics. Like, this is go time, 110%. And then I took a leave from teaching, went full into my business. And I was like, I have to do this the projector way. My reality would not support any other way where I need to care for my kids. I'm pregnant. Like, I have to. So I did it from the very beginning in alignment as a projector. Grew my business. The month I had my son, it was like a 30 or 28K a month, which was my highest to date at that time. And then it was 42 2 months later. And then my ex-husband, everything kind of exploded in his world. He hit absolute rock bottom. He left. This was January 2020. And I was again like, oh, how do I do this? And it was all about the becoming, who I was becoming, how I hold my alignment, how I hold that alignment no matter what. And a couple of months later, a 6-figure cash month. And it has been so much more inside of that journey after that. But like, that was how I built it, was holding my alignment no matter what, and not depending on my circumstances, rather building that personal power, self-led leadership, external leadership, and absolute certainty in myself and what I was doing and the impact that it got to have on the world.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of women are going to relate to your story as they're listening to this, and perhaps they are still trying to make it all, to hold it all together. Like you were saying, for a while, you had the teaching during the day, the social events, the driving the kids, working on your side business, like your business at night, and it works until it doesn't, right? And I'd love to hear, well, two things. I think for the benefit of the people listening, I'd love to hear your vision of what human design is as a whole. But you've mentioned a few times that you aligned your success in your work with you as a projector. And I'd love to hear, what does that mean? Because you work 6 to 10 hours a week. That's it.
Yeah.
And that
from the very beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is very important for projectors. So, but before we talk about that, tell us, like, how do you describe human designs to people that are new to it?
Yeah. So the best way that I describe it is essentially, it is your personal user manual. So, everybody's like, I wish my baby came with a manual. And it's like, here it is.
It actually does.
Design. It really does. So it's your own personal understanding of yourself and how you operate to your highest potentiality and what will work for you, both in your energy, circumstantially outside of you, how people will relate to you and understand you. And also the energetic DNA, like really just understanding your unique energy. I really like to work with obviously what we already have going on for us and maximize that, biohack essentially our energy and only operate out of that, and then do the work behind the scenes of what is not consistent for us within our design, so that we're consistently releasing and letting go of what's not ours and checking ourselves, checking our ego. I like to call it the unsexy work, but we're really checking our ego. We're like, okay, does this match how I want to hold success, how I want to grow, what I want it to feel like? And if it doesn't, we're operating in a conditioned state, an ego state, a logical state. And that will only, it could get you very far, but it won't feel the way that we really want it to feel. And when you start to experiment with that, you know that you either feel There's 5 different energy types. And with those energy types, you'll have an alignment theme and a misalignment theme. And these are very like distinguished, like you understand. So for a projector, it's success is my alignment, bitterness is my misalignment. The second I'm bitter, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? What do I need
Red
to
flag.
adapt?
Yeah.
Red flag, big red flag. For generators and Manny Gens, and you're a Manny Gen, it's satisfaction and frustration. For manifestor, it's anger and it's peace, or peace and anger, reverse those. And then for a reflector, it is surprise and disappointment. So when we have these markers, like life becomes so easy. And I talk about ease all the time, and I don't mean it's easy, it's ease filled. When you can walk through the world and be like, okay, well, here's my, here's my arrow, here's my thing. Like, what's the match?
Yeah.
And if that's not the match, what needs to change? Either my thoughts, my beliefs, my internal dialogue and self, or the way that I'm operating. So let's make those changes. And then we start to move that meter towards what your alignment theme is.
Mm-hmm. So for example, a projector, why is working 6 to 10 hours a week your ideal scenario?
Because we don't have the consistent energy that you guys have. So for me and Gens, you have a sacral, and that's like constant energy. It's life force. Like I feed off of it. I love it, but I can't sustain it. So projectors, reflectors, and manifestors can't sustain ongoing energy. So when we work, projectors, we're really efficient, we're really potent, powerful, and focused. That's how our aura operates. The rest of the time, we're like, refuel, refuel, refuel. And if we don't, as I was talking about when I was a teacher, I was sick, I was exhausted, I was like mentally like, and stressed and not wanting to socialize. It's those pieces of us where we're like, the only way I could recoup it would be to be alone. And as a projector, it's not that we're meant to be alone, but we're meant to know how to recharge ourselves. And that's even where our conversations of biohacking have become so amazing. So I'm like, okay, like next step, because I still need to support my energy as a projector. Just because there's alignment doesn't mean that like your growth in yourself or changes in life is going to be sustainable. We have to constantly support it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in my coaching container, I have maybe a third that are projectors. And I can see how they're constantly, let's say, comparing themselves to the things I'm launching and the things I'm doing. And I'm like, no, like don't compare yourself, because this is not like this. You have different superpowers essentially. And often they make great coaches because projectors bring the light, the perspective. I mean, you probably can describe that better, but they can see things that we can't, right?
Exactly. And that's where building my business was so critical, because I knew that about myself. And I was able to say, okay, like as a projector, I can see, I can communicate, I can, basically bring people to a place that they can't see for themselves. So now how do I integrate that into a lifestyle that would match for me, and a level of success where I would actually feel that success and could make an impact in the world? And so it was really figuring out like, okay, I have to be seen, heard, and recognized for me to have that success. So do lives. How can that be as simple as possible? How many clients am I willing to take in? And that becomes like a capacity. It's like, okay, I have 3 private clients and that's it. I would never fill my roster to 10. That just wouldn't work. So then it's maximized group programs, and it's allowing that artistry to come out, So it's all of these little ways where it's like, we have to allow ourselves to be on our own path and to differentiate not just our desires, but like also our realities.
Totally. So what is one area of human design that you love to look at for women entrepreneurs? Because my mind has just been blown at, we hear a lot about energy types, about the profiles, satisfaction, all these things. But, you gave me a few things about undefined centers. And I mean, there are so many things to look at. What are some of like where you find the biggest, golden nuggets that nobody talks about?
Okay, well, people talk about this, but I find like my number one place is definitely profiles. Like the 2 lines that make your profile, they are critical because it's really your authentic expression and like your natural gift. And then I really like to go into like the centers, like what we have defined. I always like to look at the heart center, defined or undefined, will give me so much insight in how you're operating. And then also the allowing of you to like what your voice is, what your message is. So really looking at, I had these VIP visionary calls. So it's looking at like, what's your vision? And then how do we begin to move you forward in complete authenticity and alignment of that vision? And my favorite thing is just watching like more confidence and individuality like ooze out of these leaders and entrepreneurs, because like you just said, it's so easy to compare and kind of get like, this is what works, or these are keywords that people are saying, or this is the image. And it's like, no, I want to see like a room filled with like the most authentic, original people, because that's really what we're designed to be, you know? So it's so fun to watch that come to life in a bigger way.
Yeah. For me, when I first discovered human design, first of all, it made me feel so much better about what I thought was wrong about me. The fact that I'm a Manny Gen, so I have so much energy. I have a million things on the go, and people get tired around me most of the time, and they think like I'm crazy. And I've heard that in my entire life. And when I first read about that, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so seen. Thank you. And then my lines are 4 and 6. And when I first heard about the line 6 in particular, it kind of gave me so much permission in my personal brand to actually, so the line 6 is the role model line. It just gave me that permission to take people along with me on the journey, to just start sharing more. And that's how big it can be of a change, just that permission, stepping out of the conditioning and really owning what is true to me. It doesn't mean that everybody else should do this, but this works for me.
Completely. And especially the part of like when you said, everybody has said that to me my entire life. Like that is such a weight that people carry around of like who I am inside or what I want is ultimately wrong. And that level of freedom and like you said, permission or self-acceptance is just like someone goes from like resistance to like skyrocketing and just like, again, oozing confidence because not because anything changed, but because now it's like, oh, I'm meant to be like that. My whole life, I've been holding that back and now it's go time.
Yeah. It's like, what do you mean? I'm not broken? Like, this is okay. This is actually my superpower. Wow. Like, and that's why I love including human design. Like I always say to my clients, like, let's go and get your profile. Like, let's understand, because, I may be recommending a strategy, let's say for biohacking or for health or for business, but the truth is it might not work for you. And we might need to go at it from a different angle. And we might need to tweak it. So like, for example, you as a projector, like we need to triple down on the self-care. So let's give you all the things, the PMF mats and the red light and the,
which by the way, I'm using that every single night. It said recommended like 3 nights a week to begin. And I was like, no.
Oh, you're good. And your kids are going to notice. Your kids are going to love it too. But
my daughter's using it too. Yeah.
It's just like this beautiful grounding energy. But yeah, so to me, yeah, it just opens the doors to, when we talk about this effortless word, I know it's very overused, but I've personally experienced it with human design, and it's so right on. Like it's so right on. And you've experienced it, and you've, completely grew your business so fast and you turned it into basically your dream life.
Yeah, completely. I could not imagine, and I think there's this part within human design too, which is really what we're bringing into Alpha HD, where it's the deeper embodiment of how we build personal power with human design. Because we can know all of the information, and the amount of times that someone's like, oh yeah, I'm so that, I'm so this, I'm so this. But we have to have enough personal power to actually move forward and embody your world through it. Right. And that's where like I look back, I'm like, I'm so glad I have the courage to actually hold that and create with it instead of doing it, the wrong way just because I should, and then having to change everything. Like I really built such a sustainable reality that now we get to completely thrive because I was so willing to say, no, that's not right for me. And yes, this sounds crazy. And I'm going to make it happen because it's like the embodiment of, and that's what I want.
And how were the people around you when you made that shift? Like, how did they react? Because often we, as humans, we seek that validation, and that's often what gets in the way of personal power. So how, like, I'm just curious to know in that transition from being a teacher, which is like very like very traditional, and then you're busting the internet talking about human design and coaching. Like,
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable, for sure. It was very uncomfortable, and it took a long time for that acceptance to be there and that understanding. And there were multiple conversations that, again, I did have to have, and there was multiple times where I just had to be like, okay, it's all right, just keep going, and really not seek the validation, and really, again, hold my truth and my power over the need to be understood. So leaving teaching was really big because it was like all of the fear of like, what about your benefits? What about, your retirement, all of those things. And the money inside of our industry sounds so unbelievable. It doesn't really feel or sound, and it's very difficult for anyone to know that it's real. So that was hard to be like, well, I'm making more. Like it
a
doesn't even
month
make
than you
sense.
do in a year.
Exactly. It doesn't even make sense. And then to also build in the longevity where it's like, okay, well, this could just be like a, 10 minutes of fame kind of reality. I'm like, no, I'm building an entire empire. Like this is not going away. So I really had to hold myself in my self-trust and that vision. And then also there's a lot of projections where it's like, a lot of people really did not like me, and they would make that very known. And it was just an interesting dance because I never experienced that really my whole life. And then to do something you love so much and be like, wait, what am I doing wrong? I didn't understand it. So really having masterminds that I was involved with peers that were, similar to the mastermind we're in now, I always worked one-to-one with Melanie. So having that mentorship where it's like, okay, like those are my spaces to be understood. And I had to get into that mentality, and like the rest of my life won't be understood until it's accepted.
And do you feel it is now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's still like
Reddit threads.
Still Reddit thread, but even like in personal life, like there's just a bit of an elephant. Like people, like parents won't be like, "Oh, what do you do?" Like it's a normal question, but like nobody asks me because like I think everybody knows that it's such a weird question. And just stuff like that, where it's like you definitely know you're the elephant in the room, but it's not in a hasteful way. It's just an uncomfortable feel.
Oh, yes, I know. I'm sharing that. And so you touched on something, which is the self-trust, which I find when we are trailblazers and when we are so aligned with our mission and our true nature, becomes so important. And I'm curious to know, as you were talking, I was wondering, is there a part in human design that can help us unlock higher levels of self-trust? Like, like, is there something when you have an undefined heart, or is there something that's going to help anchor that at a deeper level?
So number one would be your authority. So absolutely learning to trust that authority, because that will be your foundation of self-trust. Outside of that, I do work. It's funny you mentioned the heart, because I do work with the heart a lot. So anyone with a defined heart, I have a defined heart. It's easier for us to get on board with like, I want, like that, like feeling. And then just again, with the authority, it's like that matches. Undefined hearts, we have to do more of the unsexy work where it's like you're allowed to do things your own way. And it doesn't need to be, it really shouldn't be goal driven. It should be, how do I want this to feel?
Well, how
and you have undefined heart.
Mine is undefined. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So yours is actually completely open. So it's really like coming into a lot of undefined or open hearts will be like, we get the accomplishment, throughout your whole life, almost the highest overachievers.
Yeah.
And it's like, get the thing, and then I'm going to go to here. And then, I get the award, but then ultimately feeling like this isn't it. I still don't feel happy. I don't feel the way that I thought I would feel. So it's really about doing it your own way and learning to let go of that external validation and leaning in so deeply to like, I validate me, and that's all that matters. and I'm in love with me, and I'm in love with my life, and I'm in love with the way that I do it. And that's what matters. So really taking away those goals.
Yeah. And so it's funny because when you named that for me, it just hit me so hard because it is definitely, it's been the common thread all my life. And in my previous business, it's always been, that external validation. Everything was always it was always about seeking that, feeling seen, feeling needed. And this, going back to self-trust and self-love, and I validate myself and it's all that matters. Gosh, it's hard, especially when you're running like a business that's sort of on a hyper growth trajectory. I find that a little bit, sometimes it's like, ooh, okay, wait, I need to get out of that pattern, get back to me. But yeah, it's
It's
not
almost
easy.
like, yeah, it's not easy. And this is like where it becomes actually a challenge to create success in the way that you want it to, because it's these constant micro shifts or nuances where it's like, okay, I thought I had that figured out and mastered, and now it's creeping back in. And now I don't feel worthy because I didn't hit this or this didn't happen. It's like, wait, is that a worthiness thing? No, but you're conditioned to feel that. And when you feel that, it's now coming to those uncomfortable truths of like, now how do I perceive this in a different way? And how do I get to feel differently about it, knowing that that's kind of my autopilot, and that autopilot doesn't serve your highest potential.
Yeah, because there's always like a shadow part and a good part to all of it. And
Yeah,
how do you get out of the shadow and back into the wisdom? Because each centers have that, right? So
exactly.
so if I'm noticing that I'm like attaching my worth to external validation or the success of, let's say, a launch, how do I snap back into my wisdom?
So basically what I would say is get out of, again, the goals, the numbers, this should happen. And we come back into, for you specifically, I would go back into that sacral and be like, what actually lights me up right now? And it's about showing you being lit up to the, like, genuinely, obviously, but you
Yes.
being completely lit up to the world and moving with that energy. Because although you have that piece that's like, oof, like it should be like this, that's not what's going to make it happen.
No,
The
exactly.
thing where it will naturally happen is actually coming from the defined centers. So your wisest self would be like, this isn't real. This doesn't support me. I'm not worthy because of this. In fact, I am worthy, and I get to go let myself enjoy whatever my sacral says right now. And like, let's build that energy.
Just that. Can you imagine if every single human being was plugged into that truth about
Mm.
themselves? Like, imagine how different this
What a
whole
different
world.
vibe. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, because this can be true to me for me, but it's completely different for you who you have a defined heart center. So you don't have
Mhm.
the same struggles. And so really honoring what's present for us and stepping out of the comparing ourselves is just so, so, so important. Yeah.
So freeing, especially as a mom. Like my one daughter has a defined heart, my other daughter has an undefined heart. So I have to have really different conversations and, methods of motivation for them that are not the same at all, especially sisters. Like there's so many layers where you just see people in different ways, and you get to support them with such a different level of honor and respect. And especially as a parent, lead them to their highest potential instead of, okay, well, Lucy does it like this, so you should too. Or Layla can do this and you're not doing this. Like, what's going on? Or she thinks this and you act different. Like, it's like so individualized.
Oh my gosh. And as you're saying this, I'm pulling my kids' charts.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, do they have, okay, they both have
Defined
heart.
heart.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
interesting. But
Yeah.
um, so I actually I'm so glad you're bringing up the kids because you have 3 kids. You're just like you're just such an amazing mom. You're really always trying to see how can I be better? How can I show up better for them? Like I've really witnessed that about you and it's quite incredible. And your 3 kids are manifesting generators,
Yep.
which for a projector could be overwhelming. And you're
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
solo parenting also. So how do you, like, how do you do this? And how have you learned to really maximize the human design readings in order to be able to help you thrive as a single mom?
Yeah, I mean, I know so deeply what I need, and I've raised my kids to also understand that. So
Mhm.
it's not like there's ever this question of like, I push myself so far to burnout that like I can't get back up. And like, a lot of moms will build in or hold that stress where it's like, my kids need, my kids need, my kids need. I know what I need in order to support my kids. And like, that's always number one. And then outside of that, I've integrated ways where like we really are a team, and like I know what they need, or I start to notice the cues in which like, okay, we need to go to the park. So it's like, all right, guys, 5 minutes, we're going to the park, and then we're going to come back, and then we're all going to chill out for 20 minutes, and then you can have a friend over, like there's like this, like as a projector, I can see it, and then I explain it to them. And then it's like they get to choose, what park do you want to go to? Or do you want to have a friend or not have a friend? So they have their own power within the spaces. So they're still, holding that self-trust, and we're honoring each other's and respecting each other. And then it's also like I'm building in the breaks that I need. Or
Yes.
like, kitchen is closed, guys. Like, you have 5 more minutes, like, and then my kitchen's closed and I'm not getting anything else. So like, step up.
Yeah,
With
and
some
it's
strategy.
also modeling in such a beautiful way that, the thing that we didn't get modeled by our parents, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is self-care, voicing our needs, like all these things. I don't know about you, but I feel like for most of us that are around plus or minus like 30s, 40s, we didn't see this from our
Yeah.
moms like whatsoever.
Completely. And I think obviously too, my working schedule, like that was one of the key factors where I'm like, I know that, let's say, well, my kids are at school, I'm not going to work those 7 straight hours. I'm going to work a couple, and then I have that time because when they get home, we're go, go, go. So it's also me stacking like the time of spaciousness to like not do anything to prepare for the busyness.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess one thing that's great about having three manifesting generators is they all have the same authority. So you can pick up on whenever they're getting frustrated or whenever so
Completely.
you can, like, the boundaries are somewhat similar for you, like the cues are similar. So that's nice.
Very. Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And I always say, like, try to get the chart for the people in your family also, because it is so enlightening, and especially partners.
Yeah.
Um,
What's your husband?
he's a generator.
Oh, he is. Okay.
And my son is a manifester.
Okay.
So he's
Okay.
releasing himself.
He's doing
Although
his thing.
he's doing his thing. It's actually quite wild. And then my daughter's a Manny Jan.
Okay.
But yeah, and it made so much sense in the way we operate as a family. Like, it's funny how everybody's kind of we each have our roles. Like,
Hmm.
often it's my son who is going to get like the wildest, craziest idea, especially when we travel. And we're like, what? We're never going to do this. And then we're like, okay. Then my daughter and I were like, okay, yeah, maybe we can try it. And then my husband makes it happen, and like, he's the
Oh my
generator.
gosh,
He's
I
like,
love it.
then he's like, okay. And then it always ends up being the highlight of the trip. Um, and that has happened again and again and again. And so we've really learned, for him anyway, for my son, every time he says something a bit crazy or out of the normal, let's say, we're like, actually, there's probably something there. Let's dive deeper. Let's go with it. It's
Oh
fun.
my gosh, I love that, because any parent with a manifester, like you're able to see his gift and like respect that instead of like, oh no, we can't do that, or that's crazy, or that's too much. It's like, ooh, let's all dive into that a little bit deeper, and it's just that's just so much honor to him being a manifester.
Yeah, it changed actually everything when I discovered that, because I used to try to not fit him in a box, but the schedule, and okay, we're doing this and then we're going there. And then I realized that actually all he needs is very broad, wide boundaries.
Hmm.
And then as long as he knows those, he just feels so free, and he's going to do whatever he wants, and he knows what needs to get done. And then he's just like so happy. Whenever we try to like put him in a box, oh my gosh, that's when he
Oh,
doesn't.
I'm so happy to hear that. Good job.
Yeah, no, it was quite life-changing for me anyway as a parent. The other thing that was life-changing that like we rarely hear about was the digestion piece. And I
Yeah.
love looking at that with my clients because sometimes, again, we try to do a one size fits all. And it's like, but
Yeah.
no, actually, you're meant to be eating in the sun, or you're meant to be eating with music, or you're meant to be, your digestion is going to be optimized if you're always eating the same things. And
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm super consistent and then also inconsistently eating. So when I try to get on like a super strict schedule, I'm like, ooh, like like even I'm supposed to eat early breakfast and I'm like, okay, well, in my consistency, I'll have the egg or a couple eggs, but I'm really going to wait until I almost have some more body cues, more of that intuition rather than like I have to.
yeah. And like, for example, both my kids have, I think is it closed? Uh,
Yep.
so like my son could eat pesto pasta like every single day, lunch, dinner, and he actually would be so happy. And at first it drove me nuts because, I thought it was me that he didn't like what I was cooking and I thought he was fussy. And when I learned about that, it just removed so much pressure. I was like, actually, that's what he wants. So I'm just now I have like a range of 5 different types of pasta, like lentil and chickpea. And so I make sure that he has different nutrients, but I'm
Yeah.
also like really like he's so happy. And now there's no more fuss or conversations around that. But it was
Yeah.
really interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, that's amazing. The thriving.
Yes. Okay, so I want to talk about so you had this like beautiful, successful business and you decided to retire. I want to know all about it. This
Oh
is
my
very
gosh.
recent. It happened in June, right?
It happened in June. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like what made you want to do this move?
I mean, it was a very slow moving process, to be honest. If you would have asked me like a year ago if I would have ever retired or line by design, it would be like, absolutely not. Like that was not even a thought in my radar. It was not, there was no way. So I had started doing like contract work with Melanie last year, and we really did open up Alpha HD, but it was kind of like a sideline. Like we were really experimenting. And then I was like, you know what? I need to go full in on Align by Design. And we kind of completed what we were doing. And I went out and I had to make personal life changes too. I was actually in a relationship and it was just so divine of like, it's so cliche to be like, trust the timing, but like, just trust the timing. And again, authority, like something in my authority, I'm a splenic. It just wasn't like 100% hit. And I was like, I just got to trust what I'm feeling and go figure it out. Then it's like that opened up the space for me to really see what I wanted my life to look like. And that relationship was not it. So I ended that. And then that kind of created the snowball effect of I had these really divine interventions in meditation and through faith and church. And then these interesting little things kept popping into my sphere around like clients would come in and be like, like, I don't know, I want you and Melanie back together. I can't decide. Do I do this? Do I do this? They had tons of those messages. And then also a couple things from Jack, who were such good friends. And she's like, are you going to go back? Are you going to? Are you going to? And I was like, I don't know why I can't just come back to what it was. And then this really crazy thing happened, but then I had messaged her and I was like, do you think this is a sign? And she's like, maybe of like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, okay, I'll get back to you. I was like, took
That
a
was with
week and I was
Melanie?
like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, what am I thinking? And then I was like, I actually had gone to a wedding, and at that wedding, a man was there who I had taught his daughter in my very first year of teaching.
Oh
So
gosh.
as a little baby. And he was like, you were so incredible. Like, just like these overwhelming compliments of, just how shocked he was at it and, the impact. And he still remembers me and all of these really nice things. But he goes, oh, so you retired from teaching? And I was like, yes, I did. And in my head, I was like, I'm supposed to retire Align by Design. That's why I can't go in yet. And then I was like, yes, I did. And I was like, okay, I'm supposed to retire. Like that's what it is. And it just felt so right. Like there was not one part of me that was like, what about my programs? And this has been like truly building like my art, like my heart and soul, my journey, my
No.
process, my identities have all been in it. So it's like, it's my heart and soul. It's like a baby. And I was like, no, like no part of me feels like I need to hold on to it. Like I was like, it's done. I'm ready. And then it was to Melanie, I was like, here's what I'm thinking. I retire and I retire fully. And there is no more in between where these two human design worlds are going on. It's all Alpha HD. And I want to retire this properly. And I'm doing it big and I am making it a meaningful moment. Like I'm not just like, moving on. Like it gets it. And it was 5 years and everything was just so perfect. So yeah, that was the transition. And then I really had the summer with my kids, which was amazing. And we are almost done energy types now. And then we're getting into a lot of fun programs where we're combining again the energetics and Alpha Fem's world with human design and integrating the higher conversations and deeper understanding of human design in the energetic and personal power world. And it's just been like perfect. I can't even say it's just been so perfect in the transition, where we're going, like the vision, everything is just, I'm so happy.
Wow. So, when you announced that, I was like, wait, what? You didn't try to sell it? Like, what? So I sold my previous business. And for me, it's like, that's what you do. And I was like, wow, okay. Like you've been able to activate that level of peace
Yeah.
and full on like 100% conviction to be like, yes, we are complete here, closing that chapter, moving on. So just
Yeah, I really couldn't have ever
congratulations.
imagined. Oh, thank you. I couldn't have imagined selling it because again, I'm like, that's like, I feel like I'm selling me. Like it didn't really, I couldn't. And then I wanted to remain everybody having one last chance to purchase and that they would forever, we'd still be in control of their stuff, So like we still have all access to everything. So anyone that bought something a year ago and they forgot, we still can support them in it,
Yes.
So it was just really, I wanted it to keep living through us.
Yeah. So share with me what the vision is now in this, I guess we'll call it new career, because you went from teacher to coach and now like how would you like what's the vision? How would you describe this?
Well, I mean, we're taking this like really in true trailblazer visionary fashion. So this is adding so much more art into human design. This is really working with people that it's not information based. It's just enough information that you need where you can integrate this into your life today after our call and to change the trajectory of both of us, Melanie and I, just get really like, nobody needs to replicate anything. And we want to bring the power of differentiation back and the self-trust of individualization, individuality. Like there's this whole unity conversation. And I'm like, the only way we actually come into unity is when we can respect each other's differences. And it's not about oneness. It's about a millionness. Like I mean, a billionness. Like it's about going so much further than what you think is possible because you saw somebody else doing it and really like, cool, that's possible. And how am I going to do it my way? And what do I want? And how am I going to do that for myself that again respects my motherhood, my relationship, my integrity, my morals, my values, myself, my truth, and to make a million more pieces of art in any industry through your human design.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I have to say, even just witnessing the two of you, the level of trust that you guys have, it is so beautiful. Like we can see that this is something that's kind of happening at a heart level.
Mm-hmm.
It is like the mind has nothing to do with any of it. It's really just full on, conviction, but also just like heart open. How can we, make this even better and full trust? It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Amy, where can people find you with all of this now? Like, where is the best way for them to connect with you? And yeah. go deeper?
Yeah, so Alpha HD, either website, Instagram would be a great place. And then I have my own platform of the Amy Elizabeth on Instagram too. So those would be the places. My former podcast, which is still currently listed as Aligned by Design, there's tons there. And I'm actually making the pivot to that, still living, but it becoming the Amy Elizabeth podcast. So that would be a great place too. You want to get your HD fill, and then you want to get your leadership fill. Everything will be in one spot.
So beautiful. We'll put all these links in the show notes. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you, Samantha.
sharing your light, sharing your vision, giving us this like refreshing permission to just stand in our light and be ourselves. It is such an honor to be on this path by your side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And likewise, you're so amazing. And I just love everything that you bring. And again, your genius, your wisdom, it's just so, it's meant to make world change. So thank you.
Let's go. We're both doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grotman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.